The story begins with a young man named Hee-yoon, who wants to buy his freedom. The price is only 5 silver coins, but it will take him 20 years. He plans to tolerate this heretical sect for another 6 months and then head south to the lands of the righteous. By calling the system, it informs him of the amount of spiritual power he must collect. She began to show the required amount of spiritual power to achieve a breakthrough, and the protagonist was only 1 point short. The main character is annoyed by the buggy system, which has been showing the same number for 6 months. He feels cheated and shouts at the system, but at the same moment he heard something behind him and turned around in fear. He wondered who could be wandering through the forest at such an early hour and decided to abruptly introduce himself to the bushes. A mysterious voice behind the bushes commanded him to come closer, or it would kill him. Darkness emanated from it. The protagonist is grumbling about this whole sect and is determined to show who's boss. He's fed up with the thefts and murders at every turn. Suddenly, someone's hand grabs his leg. Some darkness pulls him into the bushes while he screams frantically in horror. Surprisingly, it turns out to be a blonde girl who pins him to the ground. The girl riding the main character was, for some reason, half naked, and began to crawl closer to him. She grinned and, standing up, called him handsome. Her eyes were full of madness. The hero is completely stunned and perplexed by the stranger, managing to crack a joke. He's level 0, so he can't kill his own. Without giving him a chance to say a word, she begins to furiously rip his clothes off. The crazy girl orders him to shut up, covering his mouth with her hand. The guy moans tearfully. The stranger screams that his body will serve her while the poor guy tries to get out. The protagonist doesn't understand what's happening, and suddenly she takes a larva out of her mouth. She tells him to swallow the larva in her hands and she will give him an unforgettable night. Horrified, the boy refuses, saying he can handle it himself. He'd rather run away. The girl doesn't hesitate and hits the hero right in the face with her fist. The soul leaves the body, but it is not going to stop there. These were just the tip of the iceberg, and the hero realizes the full horror and understands what will happen next. After all this, suddenly, a goldfish appears as the personification of the main character. A huge red dragon appears opposite the fish, indicating the difference in their levels. The day breaks. The girl wakes up, petals opening. Her identity is finally revealed. She is the Wuxian patriarch. The main character can't even make a sound. His strength is running out. Wuxian is surprised that an ordinary person like him still survived after this. As the hero lies dying, she reveals that she was poisoned and the boy was some kind of cure, or rather, what was left of him. Looking at her hand, Wuxian realizes the poison hasn't completely disappeared. She puts that problem off until later. According to her, she had lost her virginity and, as a disciple of the 9 hells, it would be a great honor for the boy to give his life for her. Just as she was about to kill him, a vibration erupted in her chest. A bright golden ball flew out of her chest. Wuxian was surprised by the echo of the eternal light. She understands that it's all about this ordinary low-level guy and wants to understand what's going on. Wuxian sat down and began to study the protagonist again, using her powerful abilities. Having found something interesting, she realizes that the hero is not so simple. In the end, she wants to keep it for herself, because it is not useless and can be an excellent cure for her ailment. The action moves to the demonic palace. Wuxian walks helplessly through the palace, leaning on the walls, breathing heavily. She is interrupted by the realization that something is wrong with her body and she is getting weaker. She slowly, with horror, leaning on the furniture, makes her way to the stream inside the palace and looks at the reflection. In it, she saw that everything was getting worse and she needed to hurry with the medicine. After what she saw, she's serious. She needs an antidote and plans to wipe out whoever stands in her way. Unexpectedly, while Wuxian was sitting by the stream, a hostile voice from behind her was about to get rid of her, mistaking her for an outsider in the palace. Wuxian deftly dodges the attacker by grabbing his arm. The carnage began. Wuxian deftly countered all attacks and suddenly grabbed his attacker by the neck. She addresses the attacker, named Fang Yin, and asks if she recognizes her. Fang Yin, who had her throat clamped, recognizes the patriarch by his gaze and realizes who she has attacked. Wu Gian lets go of her throat indifferently, leaving her on the floor. While Fang Yin was trying to catch her breath, Wuxian sat right in front of her and began to remind her of the request not to cause trouble. Fang Yin, perplexed, claims that he doesn't understand what they're talking about. This irritates Wuxian. She calls Fang Yin stupid, but she still won't admit it. Her patience is running out. She asks if she told him her location, since she was the only one who knew. Fang Yin is crazy about the patriarch and assures that he will never reveal her location and is ready to wipe out any family for the sake of Yu Xian. Finally, the patriarch names the offender. He is an ordinary apprentice cook named He Yun, but Fang Yin knows nothing about him. The patriarch puts it off for later and begins to scold Fang Yin, saying that if she fails again, she will be punished. Wuxian asks her not to tell anyone about her passing and to find a way to pass the eternal light to He Yun. Fang Yin is perplexed as to why she would give him such a precious relic. After all, eternal light gives power over the whole world. She is asked not to ask many questions and to follow the orders of the patriarch. She plans to observe He Yun and asks him to prepare some ordinary clothes. Fang Yin is upset that the patriarch is leaving so quickly. Wu Xian is irritated by this and decides to visit the kitchen while Fang Yin is doing her work. The action moves to the forest, where finally the main character wakes up where he was left lifeless. Barely getting up, he began to remember the events before his passing out. The memories made him vomit and, either from happiness or regret, he shouted that he was no longer a virgin. The system, hearing this news, reports +1 point. The hero asks how many points he already has. After receiving the notification that he had reached the 100 million point target, his face began to tear apart from the effects of the system update. The action moves to the kitchen of the Palace of the Nine Hells, where the main character He Yun lived. Having caught a chicken for dinner, the master sat peacefully and cooked the meat. While trying to sit down discreetly, He Yun was still noticed and asked where he had been all day and why he was naked. He Yun shamefully reveals that he was raped by a girl from the Valley of Beetles and called him Medicine. The master analyzed the boy's story and realized how stupid he had been. Jumping off topic, the hero remembered that chickens are an offering for the heads of sex, and asked if the master was afraid for his life. But the master very quickly bribed him with the same illegal chicken that He Yun was not averse to eating. While the chicken was cooking, the master asked He Yun to go to the town at the foot of the mountain tomorrow to buy spices. The chicken was ready, and after cutting it in half, the master gave half to He Yuan to eat. After asking permission, He Yuan went back to his room. The master, watching the boy leave, understood that he was already quite grown up. Fa Yin appears and asks the master to find an excuse for He Yun to go down to the city because someone wants to watch him. The master realized that the mistress had sent her and laughed. Knowing what kind of character the patriarch had, he understood that he could not refuse. The day came and He Yun, surprisingly in a good mood, goes down to the city, even thanking his sister for yesterday. Although remembering how yesterday he entered the room and he was bursting with anger and how he was ready to tear this devil into pieces, but he realized he didn't even remember her face. And with his level 0, there was nothing to do in the Valley of Beetles. While he was chewing the chicken, a new system update and a notification about He Yun's reward came in. The system provides him with a treasure chest as a reward for decades of improvement. He Yun clicks to confirm the gift. Suddenly, the system gives him a second life as a gift. The hero is surprised that he can now be resurrected after death. But the system is not finished with surprises yet. Now He Yun can synthesize fragments of heavenly fortunes, which gives him new abilities. He can also spend the spiritual energy points that he collected along the way and invest them in his level, jumping 60 levels forward at once. He Yun understands that this is an incredible opportunity to rise in the eyes of others and reach new heights. But it also comes with great risks. But while the hero was thinking on his way to the city, cries for help were heard from behind. A young girl was calling for help as she was being chased by a horde of huge men. She almost managed to reach He Yun when they grabbed her at the last moment. She was taken hostage and was not allowed to escape, with her mouth covered with her hands, but she still called for help. He Yun understood that no one but him could help her, but he was still afraid of these men. Compared to him, they were huge. He Yun's angel and devil were at a crossroads, whether to save the poor girl in danger or not. He Yun made an urgent decision and performed a synthesis, converting his earned spiritual power points into a level. He gathered his strength and was about to jump on the bandits, but a cramp seized him and he rolled down the stairs like a ball. There was an awkward pause and the girl seemed to begin to doubt her salvation by this hero. He Yun orders the horde of men to let her go. After leveling up, he himself is surprised by his own power. The man holding the girl is intimidated by his rank. The protagonist is aware of his advantage and uses his confidence to intimidate his enemies by hinting at the difference in their levels. The men realized how weak they were compared to the Taoist of the Nine Hells, and they understood that they were obliged to yield to him. Suddenly, they casually throw the girl into the protagonist's arms. After this, they immediately run away, handing the girl over to the care of He Yun. The hero wonders why it was so easy while the girl comes to her senses. She immediately thanks the hero for saving her, which makes He Yun feel awkward, since he essentially did nothing. Then the protagonist realizes that he didn't need to spend 50 million points to level up. He could have just said that he was a Taoist. He Yun remembers the girl he saved and awkwardly hints that everything is safe now and they can go home. Suddenly, the stranger throws herself into He Yun's arms and begins to sob piteously about her sad fate. She tells him that her parents were killed for debt, and now she's being persecuted, with nowhere to live. The girl offers to give herself to the hero as his wife in exchange for his salvation. He Yun was stunned. Give himself up as a wife? The stranger shows an active desire to give herself to He Yun and is already planning to arrange a wedding night right there on the same spot. But the hero unconditionally refuses such offers. The girl doesn't understand what the problem is while He Yun tries to justify himself. It turned out, however, that he was simply feeling unwell after the master's chicken yesterday, so nothing would work out today. He naturally wanted to solve the problem himself. But every time he tried, his stomach ached terribly. The hero blamed the poison of that devil. The memory of those events still makes him gag. He didn't know what to do, but because of the girl's pitiful appearance, he decided to take her with him to the city and put off thinking about it for later. The stranger was surprisingly too obedient and agreed to do whatever Hee-yoon said. It was already dark outside and they finally reached the city. They were very pleased with the sight of the lanterns and decided to find a place to spend the night, putting off shopping until tomorrow. She agreed, but a moment later she was overtaken by disappointment. Hee-yoon made a bed for them right on the street, suggesting that she sleep on the carpet. Having given up his soft spot for her, he himself will sleep on the ground nearby, protecting them from any danger. The girl lay down on the carpet with an indifferent expression, covering herself with her own hair, while Hee-yoon chatted about his meager earnings. Her patience ran out, and she realized again how greedy and poor he was. It was already morning. They woke up, went shopping, and now it was time to look for a home for her. This genuinely upsets her because he is trying to get rid of her. Although according to him this is not so. Hee-yoon took her to a corner and explained that such a sweet girl had no place in the Nine Hells cult. The girl doesn't understand why this is a problem, because he is a good person. But Hee-yoon explains that not everyone in the cult is as kind as he is. So it is very dangerous. The protagonist talks about his dream of redeeming himself from kitchen slavery and joining the Heavenly Heights sect. The sweet girl on the outside proclaims her loyalty to Hee-yoon, and that she will follow only him. But inside, Woo Xian's character mocks his naive dream. The hero tries to dissuade her from entering this cruel world where everyone is killed indiscriminately. The girl, clinging to his hand, persuades him that in the cult it is forbidden to kill one's own and that she is not in any danger. She looks at Hee-yoon with tearful eyes and begs him not to leave her alone. The main character is very broken and cannot leave such a girl, because she looks so pathetic, and now he feels guilty. In the end, he decided to take her with him, but only on one condition. First, he needs the master's permission, and if he refuses, she'll have to leave. The girl agrees to everything. To the protagonist's surprise, the master does not refuse, but rather is happy to have the new workforce, as he is short of hands. The master asks to take her with him and show her everything. Hee-yoon does not understand anything. The hero didn't understand why he agreed so easily, and the girl smiled slyly in the background. He has no choice anymore, so he welcomes her into the kitchen of the cult of the Nine Hells. Meanwhile, Fa-yin watches her mistress's plan from the bushes and is about to move on to the next stage of their operation. Night falls. Woo Xian, in the guise of a sweet girl, sits on the bed under the moonlight. There are a lot of extra sounds from sleeping people in this place, which prevents her from thinking. She, having returned to her form as Woo Xian, flew out to meet Fa-yin to discuss their plan. Arriving at the backyard of the Devil's Palace, she met Fa-yin on the roof. Fa-yin immediately bows to the patriarch and reports that news of the eternal light in Hee-yoon's hands has already spread, and spies within the cult will soon be in action. Hee-yoon woke up in the middle of the night and went outside in a sleepy state. He decided to go out to replenish his spiritual energy reserves, since he had spent most of it on leveling up. Meanwhile, Woo Xian informs Fa-yin of the next tasks, and they need to find time to discreetly transfer the eternal light. The patriarch recalls that at the time Hee-yoon saved her, he was already at the late foundation stage and quite powerful, but when she used it that night, he was an ordinary low-level person, which doesn't add up at all. The only answer that comes to her mind is that the master taught him to hide his strength. At that moment, Hee-yoon wanted to pick a ripe fruit from the tree. Woo Xian heard his footsteps and immediately warned him. Fa-yin jumped off the roof and disappeared into the darkness of the night. The patriarch was also about to leave the roof and return to the room. But at the moment of flight, she felt an unknown wind, which she had felt before. Because of this, she lost her balance, and of course, unfortunately for her, she fell at the most inopportune moment. Of all places, she fell into the bushes in front of Hee-yoon, who was peacefully walking towards the spiritual energy. He, of course, recognized her immediately. It's very hard not to remember her. The main character, afraid for his life for the second time, ran away without delay with all the strength he had. But to his regret, she pulled him in with her web and Hee-yoon accepted his fate. Woo Xian squatted closer and greeted him with a smile for the second time. The she-devil decided to ask why he was walking at such a time. Hee-yoon seemed to have resigned himself to the situation and decided to ask her back, thinking that she wanted to repeat the events of that night. The patriarch just laughed sweetly at him. The hero was taken by surprise by her reaction, and he decided that she was laughing at his repeated loss. The girl lay down silently next to him and smiled, clinging to Hee-yoon. He still didn't understand anything. It turned out that she was laughing at their fate because she was telling them to be together. The hero, naturally, does not believe her words and wants to figure it out quickly, because he is already at a late stage of the foundation. Wu Xian is just toying with him, mocking his body, slowly tearing apart his clothes again. After that, he immediately lies down and asks to be allowed to undress first. As custom-made clothes are quite expensive, he's a constant tightwad. He decided to explain to her his earlier words. He meant that she needed to hurry, or he would become better than her, and she would end up on the bottom. Of course, these words made Wu Xian laugh wildly. After laughing, she lay down closer to him and again tore his expensive clothes. She said mockingly that she would wait for him to become better than her, knowing that it was impossible. After some time, the patriarch sits on the edge of a stream, washing his long hair. He-yun is near death again, but he still has the energy to crack jokes. Wu Xian enjoys this and is eager for him to surpass her. But the guy tells her directly that if she wants to use it as an antidote, she doesn't have to force him. She can just ask. It's not necessary to leave the larva inside. Having built a long pink carpet across the entire stream to He-yun's pavilion, she explains her behavior as mistrust. Returning to the guy, she explains that if he behaves correctly, the parasite will not do anything, whether he gets it or not. After these words, the half-dead He-yun stared at Wu Xian with a strange expression, which left her confused. He-yun suddenly confesses about the beauty of this devil, which he had not noticed before because of the mass of hair. Wu Xian is instantly embarrassed by his words, but still acts mischievously, because if she slept with him, it doesn't mean that he can hit on her. She also asks He-yun not to tell anyone about her, about their meeting and what happened there, cruelly threatening him. After speaking, she spins around in a whirlwind of water and disappears into the stream. Just as he managed to breathe a sigh of relief after the she-devil disappeared, something shiny caught his eye. It turned out that this was a huge pile of spiritual experience, which he always needed so much. After basking in the mountain of spiritual experience and gaining a whopping 10,000 points, he wondered what had caused such a large number. He realized it was most likely the influence of that devil, and he should use her a few more times. The next morning, the master called He-yun to him. Fa Yin was standing next to him. Before he could approach, the master immediately gave him an unknown task about growing vegetables, because he is the best in the area. The master mentally understands the danger of the patriarch's assistant and, in his old age, is already tired of carrying out their orders. Fa Yin handed over a large yellow seed of the patriarch's favorite dish, which was being cultivated for 100 years and which was emerging from seclusion. Handing it to He-yun, she warns him to treat them and grow them with care. Fa Yin's gaze and voice are slightly threatening as she speaks of the importance of this seed to the patriarch. She repeated again that if something went wrong, even 10 lifetimes wouldn't cover it. He-yun swallowed anxiously. The next day arrives. He-yun is up in the morning, digging in the garden. Tired of digging, the boy stood up to catch his breath. At that moment, Xiao Wushan came over to see what her savior was doing. She decided to ask what exactly He-yun was going to do in the garden. He-yun was confused by the question and didn't know how to answer. He then explained that he simply wanted to loosen the soil in the garden a bit and pick some vegetables at the same time. Xiao Wushan immediately offered to help. Together they began working in the garden. While He-yun loosened the soil, Xiao Wushan picked vegetables. After a while, they had collected enough vegetables through their joint efforts and were already getting ready to go home and cook dinner. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a girl appears and the main character crashes into her. The girl screamed, and He-yun hurried to ask if she was okay. While inside, he was afraid that he had bumped into a girl from a demonic cult. The unknown girl turned out to be very nice, and modestly said that she was fine. He stared at the girl with his mouth open, which did not please Xiao Wushan, who was standing behind him. Xiao Wushan pinched his side and sarcastically asked why he was looking at her like that. He-yun was actually just surprised that the stranger didn't hit him after their fight. Xiao Wushan is surprised by his reaction and doesn't understand why he had to be hit after such a trifle. He blames her question on Xiao Wushan's inexperience in the demonic cult, and she doesn't understand how dangerous it is here. Time moves forward to He-yun's childhood, where he is very young and watches two men quarrel. A verbal quarrel turns into a fight. The conflict began over a stolen chicken leg. Then, two girls quarrel over using someone else's comb. This shows the kind of society He-yun lived in. He-yun tries to explain to Xiao Wushan that the world of the demonic cult is not so ordinary, and that fights can start here over any little thing. He tries to teach her to be more careful in this cruel world where a petite girl like her can easily get hurt. He-yun realized he was responsible for her and her safety. After all, he was the one who brought her into this cult. He promised that once he bought his freedom, he would take her to the righteous clan. She couldn't believe it. He assures that a real man keeps his word, and he is one of them. While the sweet Xiao Wushan is jumping with joy in honor of He-yun, Wuxian is still mocking him from the inside, that he is trying to escape from her. The action moves to the kitchen. The master, along with the other guys, including He-yun, set the table. Xiao Wushan expresses her concern that she has been here for a couple of days, but has done nothing but reach for her chopsticks to eat. She asks the master to inform her of any work he can give her, The master, knowing that Xiao Wushan is actually the patriarch, the head of the demonic cult, nervously dissuades her from working, saying there's no need to do anything. Xiao Wushan doesn't want to live at someone else's expense. Her look hints to the master to give her a job. But this frightens him even more. He-Yun suggests to the master the idea of helping Xiao Wushan with preparing the ingredients since He-Yun has started working on the main cauldron. This idea saved the master from the menacing gaze of the patriarch, so he immediately agreed. Xiao Wushan thanked the master, and he mentally exhaled. Suddenly, a girl enters the kitchen and asks Master Hao to send the cooks to the pleasure pavilion for the evening guests. He-Yun recognized this girl. She was the one he bumped into earlier. Master Hao wondered who would be suitable as a cook for the evening guests, since Madame Shen, the owner of the pavilion, loved spicy food. Unexpectedly for the protagonist, the girl points to him and suggests him as a chef. He-Yun is perplexed why him. The girl doesn't understand his reaction, and he tries to explain that he's just a beginner cook and is afraid of ruining everything. Before he could answer, she had already made her decision and would wait for him in the yard. Meeting in the courtyard, they followed Sister Dean to the pleasure pavilion. As they passed, the pavilions held corresponding activities. He-Yun and Xiao Wushan experienced a variety of emotions from what was happening inside the buildings. The main character was very confused by these events, and he was very interested in what was happening in this place. Sister Ding explained that the lady of the pleasure pavilion practices the technique of cultivating harmony, and this requires paired cultivation. He-Yun had guessed, of course, but he didn't expect that this was happening here in broad daylight. They arrived at the kitchen, and He-Yun was surprised by its size. Xiao Wushan was sent to sort out the vegetables while Sister Ding prepared to take He-Yun to the wine cellar. Xiao Wushan is left alone in the kitchen, and Sister Ding is going to take the guy to the wine cellar to get wine for the banquet. While the boys were walking away, Wu Xiang, in the guise of Xiao Wushan, began to be confused by the coincidence of this strange girl meeting He-Yun, and the fact that she unexpectedly took him to the cellar. She understands that this is not just a coincidence but someone's cunning plan, and she is not going to put up with it. Meanwhile, He-Yun and Sister Ding went down to the cellar, where she asked him to help carry the lamp. The girl opens the door to the cellar and asks him to come in. As soon as He-Yun enters the cellar, he is shocked by the large amount of wine that surrounds the entire perimeter of the room. Before he could finish his sentence, he turned to Sister Dean, but she suddenly interrupted him with her technique that caused butterflies. He-Yun's legs went numb and he fell to the ground, dropping his bag of ingredients. She began to move closer to the helpless guy. While the girl couldn't figure out why He-Yun wasn't affected by her seduction technique, he assumed that she wanted to engage in dual cultivation with him. Eventually, she decided to increase the dose to get the desired effect. He-Yun started to feel faint, and he didn't understand why she was blowing some kind of smoke on him. Even after this, it had no effect on him and she was stupefied. She realized that a little more debauchery was needed for the effect to finally take effect. The girl highlights her cleavage and hints that they are now alone, and this is a very good moment. He-Yun immediately brushes off the girl's suggestions and shouts that without learning their technique, he will immediately die from cultivation. The guy threatened that if he died here, she would have no explanation for it. The girl was embarrassed by this only for a moment, and she began to untie his pants with her mouth, simultaneously asking if she was beautiful. Although the hero agrees with the girl about her beauty, his only thought is how to avoid her pleasure conversation technique. Thinking about this, He-Yun remembered the devil from the Insect Valley, that after her actions, he no longer had such desires. The girl does not give up and continues to seduce the hero with all her might, although the result was 0. Interrupting her seductive speech, he interrupts everything with a question about the wine, which is what they came here for. This touches her to the depths of her soul, and she explains the sincerity of her intentions, that all these actions are from pure love for the guy, in comparison with other participants of the gazebo. He abruptly throws her off, explaining that the problem is not with her, but with his dysfunction for some reason. The girl hit the floor and was speechless from such an action. While she's recovering from the blow, He-Yun tries to distract herself with conversations about wine, while he searches for what Mrs. Shen needs. The girl jumps to conclusions and asks if he's a virgin by any chance. He-Yun is offended by this topic. He-Yun mutters about the awkwardness of this question, while the girl is thinking about why her technique did not fully work on him. Only a person with a truly pure heart can resist this technique, the girl says. She realizes that he is truly a man with the purest heart. Suddenly, He-Yun notices a golden spiritual bead floating in the air next to him. He reached out to pick it up, and the system immediately popped up, reporting the first collected golden spiritual bead, which gave 5,000 points. After this, He-Yun again inquired where the wine they needed was in this large cellar. He-Yun looked at Sister Ding, who was thinking about this mysterious guy and his immunity to her techniques. He decided to call out to her, which caused the girl to return from her thoughts. The guy reminds them why they came to this cellar in the first place, and that it's time to look for the right wine. Sister Dean fussed and, taking his arm, led him to the right shelf with wine. The girl suggests taking 2 more cans of alcohol, since her mistress is resistant to alcohol. They emerged from the cellar and headed back to the kitchen, 3 cans of wine in hand. On the way back, Sister Dean wondered how he could be so pure of heart while in a demonic cult, and what all those rumors about eternal light were about. She understands that this is all for a reason, and she is going to get to the bottom of the truth. At the same time, Hee-Yoon's mind is racing with completely different thoughts. He's thinking about the fragments he's been collecting over the years. If he triggers another event, he'll be able to gather the final pieces he needs. He assumes the event is an experience of something unusual. He's also curious about what the girl used earlier and why his legs gave way. It was an extraordinary moment, and that was why he was able to collect the golden bead and take the event reward. He realized that if he simply stayed in the kitchen, it would be harder for him to complete events and collect rewards for them. They made it back to the kitchen, and Sister Ding asked them to get the dishes ready before dusk, as they'll be served there. Hee-Yoon is confident and ready to work. As soon as they returned, Xiao Wushan came out from the next room and was happy to see Hee-Yoon back. Hee-Yoon didn't react much, which irritated Xiao Wushan. Sister Ding ordered her to continue working. Sister Ding called Hee-Yoon over and suggested they go for a walk in a couple of days. Hee-Yoon, not noticing anything strange, agreed without a second thought. In fact, it was his brilliant plan to set things in motion because after the curse of that demoness, the techniques of that strange girl do not work on him, which gives him a good advantage. He understands that going for a walk with her is more profitable than not going. While Hee-Yoon is happy with his plan, Wuxian's character is revealed in Xiao Wushan, and she doesn't understand where he found such courage to agree to go out with another girl. Sister Dean, pleased with their agreement, says goodbye and leaves the kitchen, leaving them to work. Hee-Yoon waves to the strange girl as Xiao Wushan loses his temper and goes into another room, still holding the knife. Not feeling the atmosphere of the surroundings, Hee-Yoon asks Xiao Wushan if she wants to join them. After hinting at the poor carrot with a strong blow of a knife, Xiao Wushan timidly refuses this offer. Hee-Yoon is frightened by such a reaction. Xiao Wushan immediately starts cutting carrots at an incredible speed, while simultaneously hinting that she wasn't invited anyway. So why should she go? But Hee-Yoon suddenly saw a shelf with already prepared ingredients and was surprised by her speed of work. He says he didn't expect her to be so helpful in preparing the food, trying to put his hand on her shoulder, which she slaps away sharply. She is not in the mood at all, which Hee-Yoon himself cannot understand, although it is obvious. If Wuxian hadn't hidden her identity behind the cute Xiao Wushan, she would have executed him right there on the spot. But for now, she can only aggressively chop carrots. After praising her for her hard work, Hee-Yoon finally decides to start cooking. It's already evening. The guys have already returned home, and Hee-Yoon and the master are setting the table for dinner. Suddenly, Xiao Wushan goes into another room and slams the door as loudly as possible, which immediately shows her bad mood. The master understands that this is not just a coincidence, and most likely Hee-Yoon did something that angered her, but he himself does not understand this. All he can do is wish him luck and advise him to pray for his life. Hee-Yoon pulls himself together and decides to knock on her room door. Just as he wanted to clarify whether she wanted to eat, since she had not been at dinner, a powerful gust of wind with a screaming voice immediately flew from behind the door. Hee-Yoon decided not to ask too many questions, much less bother anyone, so he decided to quickly escape. Xiao Wushan sits on a chair in her room and regrets that out of all the people on the planet she met such an idiot. While the girl was sitting and feeling sad, Fa Yin climbed into the window. Calling out to the patriarch, she announces her arrival to her mistress. But suddenly she catches the corner of the window with her long dress and gets stuck there. She turns to the patriarch and asks for help. Wuxian isn't particularly eager to help since her deputy can't climb out the window. Fa Yin justifies this by citing her speed in responding to the patriarch's summons. The patriarch decided to help anyway, and taking a piece of cloth from under the window, she asked if anyone had been following her on her way here. Fa Yin entered into fighter mode and was ready to take on any order from her mistress, to destroy any sect and anyone who interfered with the patriarch. But Wuxian was only interested in one question. Did she know about Ding Ning from the Pleasure Pavilion? Fa Yin does indeed have information about her, that she's Lady Shen's favorite disciple and has been in the cult for over 10 years. She decided to clarify whether she thought this Ding Ning might be hiding something, to which the patriarch replied that she needed proof. Wuxian tasks Fa Yin with dealing with this while she decides to check out the situation within her demonic cult. But before that, Fa Yin decided to clarify whether she trusted Hee-Yoon so much that she would entrust him with her eternal light, because this was the most precious thing for the patriarch. But she explains that there is no need to worry, because even if it is stolen, it is useless in the wrong hands. She also clarifies that the outside world has no idea about such things, but the main thing is that the eternal light does not fall into the hands of that person from the heavenly immortal sect. While Wu Xian was negotiating with her deputy, He-yun held the eternal light in his hands, covered with the seed of the favorite dish of the lady who entrusted him to Fa Yin. He-yun took a closer look at this suspicious seed and couldn't figure out if it was really true. But believing the words of the deputy patriarch, he decided to imprison him as he was ordered. A second after he placed it in the ground, he realized that such an important thing should not be left just anywhere, and that he needed to hide it more carefully. But he didn't know where. He looked around the room and decided that if you want to hide something important, you need to hide it in the most obvious place. So He-yun placed the pot of eternal light right on the windowsill. In addition, he thought that no one in the cult would think of stealing the leader's seed. After such a brilliant idea, he lay down to rest, thinking that nothing would happen. Morning came. Xiao Wushan was hanging out the laundry while the master lay behind her, fanned by a fan. While they were doing their chores, Dingning came in with a basket. Entering the courtyard, she walked up to Master Hao and asked permission if she could take him for a walk. Master Hao immediately suggested that she contact He-yun directly. He-yun immediately dropped everything he was doing and went to her, ready to take a walk. While Xiao Wushan was finishing hanging up the laundry, the master asked if she was coming with them. This question made her completely angry. Xiao Wushan lost her temper and yelled at the master, not understanding why she had to go there and ruin their atmosphere, which made the master cower in fear. Taking the basin from under the linen, she turned around and headed back to sleep, while the master still stood in shock from her reaction. Not understanding why she reacted like that, the master thought about it. Further into the forest, He-yun and Dingning set up a mini-camp and laid out a blanket on the grass by the lake. Dingning said the weather was fine, so they could bask in the sun for a while. But He-yun is worried about something else, only the spiritual beads and unexpected events that he needs so much. Dingning was worried about this and decided to call him over to lie down next to her. He-yun finally decided to ask why she'd invited him for a walk, and whether she was truly interested in him as a good guy. Even though he knew privately that he wouldn't believe a word the demonic cultist said, Dingning refuses. After that, she became silent, and He-yun asked her to tell everything frankly. He would accept any answer. Unexpectedly for the hero, Dingning reached out to touch his cheek. Approaching the protagonist, she confessed that she had used the pleasure gazebo technique on him that day in the cellar, but he hadn't reacted. Her honest confession greatly surprised him. She explains that this shows how pure his heart is. She also clarified that meaningful dual cultivation requires mutual sympathy for both of their techniques to work, but Heng-yun still can't understand the words about his pure heart. While He-yun was lost in thought, she deftly pushed him down and sat on him, asking him if he didn't agree because he liked her too. He-yun couldn't utter a word as she kept hinting at mutual pair cultivation. She raised herself up and looked at him with a contemptuous gaze, suggesting that they ascend to the clouds together. He-yun suddenly relaxed, even under Ding-ning's gaze, and disappointed her by saying that her actions were trivial. His words caught the girl off guard, and she asked him what he meant. He asked if she had anything special, something you wouldn't see on a normal day. After these words, she realized that he was not so sincere. It made sense. A demonic cult couldn't possibly have such kind people. Ding-ning took his words as a hint at something even more perverse than that day in the cellar. He-yun only thought about the benefit of being able to escape from the sect, and he needed to use this moment to trigger an unexpected event. Accepting his words, she assured him that she could fulfill his wishes, no matter how strange they were. He-yun became nervous, as he had no experience with this kind of thing, and he relied entirely on her. Although on the outside she was showering him with compliments, on the inside she was already eager to achieve everything and was ready to play this role to the end. Ding-ning began to get up to prepare herself properly. Suddenly, she put her hand into her chest and pulled out a bright red rope. Staring at him, Ding-ning asked if he wanted to play with it. He-yun began to play the role, since the situation was so unusual. Then today he had to hit the jackpot. Ding-ning, having believed in his game, thinks that he is as corrupted as everyone else from the demonic cult. She quickly directed the red ropes towards He-yun. Tying him up, the ropes began to tie him tightly so that he could not move anything. Wu-gen stood behind the tree, watching the shameful sight of He-yun lying wrapped in the girl's ropes. This made her very angry because he became her husband. And how could he do this with another girl, especially in such a strange way? She was ready to execute him right on the spot. Ding-ning kept suggesting that he move on to more and more bizarre methods, but He-yun obediently agreed to everything, which began to make her question why he was not reacting in any way. In fact, he understood that Sister Dean was from the pleasure pavilion, so using ropes was a common thing for her. He played his role to the end and admitted that he was ready to give her his whole soul and body and completely relax. Sister Dean found this very amusing, and if she had known about his hobbies earlier, she would have done it back in the wine cellar. Wu Xian, still standing behind the tree, watched the whole action and was afraid that they had already started it. Their faces broke into lustful smiles. The patriarch, who was watching the proceedings, blushed with anger, not having heard the rest of their conversation. Hee-yun's face infuriated her, as she had never seen such an expression before. Ding-ning asked if she could start already. And Hee-yun, of course, agreed. She began using her emotional bait technique to express her true feelings. If she uses this technique, the person will go into a trance. Sister Ding began using the technique on Hee-yun. Suddenly, the technique worked on Hee-yun, and he fell into a trance, not understanding what was happening. Meanwhile, Ding-ning was delighted with the result of her technique, while Hee-yun was in bliss. Taking advantage of the guy's helplessness, she asked if he had any secrets from her, and offered his secret in exchange for even more special games. He immediately revealed that he had a lot of little secrets that he was ready to tell her. At that moment, he began reeling off a litany of well-known facts, like names and birthplaces. His train of thought angered Sister Dean greatly, as it wasn't what she expected. She immediately shut him up and irritably asked what kind of nonsense he was talking about, because she needed something more intimate, for example, about the Hall of Eternal Radiance. But he had never been in this Hall of Eternal Radiance, which he tells her with his mouth clamped shut. She was very disappointed by his words and she let go of his mouth, not understanding why he was pretending. Wu Xian behind the tree was exploding with anger, preparing to destroy Hee-yun to smithereens after everything that had happened. While she was bursting with anger, suddenly there was a stabbing pain in her chest. A second later, she coughed up blood. She was afraid that what had happened earlier due to the curse of the intoxicated moon would worsen again. She promised herself that when she fully recovered, she would destroy everyone who was guilty of this. She sat on the grass behind a tree and suffered from terrible pain. Hee-yun finally woke up from the trance of Sister Ding's technique. He barely had time to look around before he noticed Ding-ning sitting next to him, looking strange. He asked what the problem was, and she replied that it was him. She took him by the shoulders and began to shake him, simultaneously asking who he really was and what his secret was because he did not fall for her techniques. Hee-yun pushes him away as he's already feeling dizzy. Sister Ding couldn't resist shouting, asking where the eternal light was. Hee-yun didn't understand the question and was disappointed because he had come here for an unusual event and thought she had confused him with someone else. He explained that they had a misunderstanding, so it would be better to go home. Hee-yun turned and headed home, but Sister Ding wasn't about to let this go. Once he'd heard about the eternal light of the soul, she couldn't let him live. At that very second, she attacked him from behind. Just as she was about to attack Hee-yun, a stone flew from some direction straight into her temple. She flew to the ground and raised her head, thinking that someone might be protecting him. Watching him go, she wondered if her technique had really not worked on him, and if he was just pretending. She began to get up and realized that he was most likely a simple cook, and the rumors about the eternal light in his hands were completely groundless. Sister Dean realized she couldn't reveal her identity right now, so she decided to run away until their next meeting. He turned around, but Ding-ning was already gone. He took it as disrespect for him, since he didn't want to dual cultivate with her. Since he had come to the forest, Hee-yun decided not to leave empty-handed and went in search of the spiritual beads. He set about collecting beads with determination to collect as many as he could. Suddenly, he heard a rustling sound from behind the bushes and realized that he was most likely not alone in the forest. Assuming it was Sister Dean, he decided to call out to her. Wu Xian suddenly fell out of the bushes. Hee-yun naturally recognized her. Shamed, she ordered him to leave. He was already secretly afraid that this girl would follow him wherever he went. Despite his suspicion and fear, he still approached and asked if she was okay. The devil repeated her aggressive words for him to go away from here. Hee-yun decided not to argue with her and leave before she sucked all the strength out of him again. He started to leave. Wu Xian's thoughts were filled with genuine resentment for the ingratitude with which he had been saved from Ding-ning. As soon as he had walked a couple of meters, he suddenly stopped and realized that he couldn't just leave and would feel guilty. He approached her again, lifted her up in his arms, and decided to ask what would happen to the parasite if she died. Wu Xian decided to brush the question aside and ordered him not to worry about her, feeling even more offended that he had returned to ask only about himself. He propped her back against a tree to ease the pain, asking her what would be most comfortable. But even so, she refused his attention. Hee-yun was surprisingly completely relaxed and asked him not to get so angry. They were not enemies. But the devil still refuses and claims that he is no longer needed, because she is already tired of him. Hee-yun decided to accept her decision and said that he would no longer ask her to remove the parasite from him. Just as he turned to leave, Wu Xian began coughing up blood again. Suddenly, she fell to the ground and lay in a terrible state. Hee-yun turned around at the sound. He came back and asked again whether she needed his help or not, knowing that she was still conscious. Hee-yun decided to take off his outerwear and heroically tell her that he had already given her his body, so he'd better hurry because she needed his medicine. But in his mind, he couldn't understand why she was acting so stubbornly. Even after that, she refused his help. He still tried to explain to her that even after her actions and the loss of his innocence, he couldn't watch her die. She asked him if he was afraid that she might kill him out of anger, but he only pulled her onto his lap and assured her that, of the two of them, she was the only one dying here. Wu Xian suddenly became embarrassed and ordered him not to blab if he was going to do that. He-yun grinned slyly, which made the devil angry, and she decided to ask him why he was laughing so much. Grabbing her cheeks with his hand, he decided to suggest that she take the first step, since she needed it first and foremost. She slapped his hand away from such impudence. A moment later, to He-yun's surprise, she pushed him so hard that he fell backwards onto the grass. During the process, He-yun was very relaxed and content with the situation, which could not be said about Wu Xian. He decided to ask why she was so tense and not making a sound. The patriarch blushed even more with shame and ordered him to shut up. Then she decided to threaten him, because one more word and she would strangle him. He-yun didn't miss the opportunity to make a lewd joke. Wu Xian couldn't blush anymore and ordered him to shut his mouth again. Some time passed. He-yun, naked, sat and grilled fish over a fire. At the same moment, the patriarch lies on a sheet with his back to the fire, thinking about his own. Turning to He-yun, she was overcome with anger. His body was incredibly resilient to have endured such a thing. Because the poison was removed, she began to transform again. While He-yun was frying the fish, he kept thinking about the beads, hoping to catch another unusual event. Turning toward the sheet where Wu Xian lay, she was no longer there. This surprised him, and he realized that she truly considered him a mere toy, since she left without saying goodbye. When I bit into the fried fish, it had no taste. The system pops up and notifies you that 5 out of 5 fragments of heavenly luck have been collected, and you are given the choice to synthesize them. He-yun thought about the solution, but it seemed like the answer was obvious to him. A second later, he naturally decided to synthesize them, and a purple sphere instantly appeared, connecting the 5 fragments of heavenly luck. By synthesizing the fragments, he gained a new technique, a corpse explosion that spreads out over a 2-meter radius. But He-yun was worried that this might hinder his future entry into the righteous sect. This technique didn't impress him much, but it could be useful for getting rid of corpses, so he resigned himself to it because there is no such thing as too much technique. He decided to open the statistics and look at all the information. The system generated a table with general information and statistics. He-yun stood up, stretched, and realized that he couldn't shirk and it was time to collect the beads. Having finished the fish and extinguished the fire with water, he began to walk naked into the forest. He-yun stepped into the portal and teleported to the forest. As soon as he appeared, he noticed a great shine and shouted with happiness how rich he was. He was surrounded by a forest covered with a large number of different beads. He immediately ran to catch them, jumping and running throughout the forest. Having collected all the beads he could, he exhaled and called up the system to show his overall balance. The system reported that he had collected a full 1 million points at once, and this triggered another event that cost 2 whole fragments. He laughed with happiness throughout the forest, but heard a strange sound behind him. Turning around, he saw a pack of huge wild wolves, realizing that it was not so easy to get 2 whole fragments. He-yun knew that he didn't want to die there, so he had no choice but to fight. He ordered the system to raise his level, and instantly his power skyrocketed. Several wolves immediately attacked him. He dealt more than 1,000 damage with one blow and took them out with one blow. He-yun felt extremely confident. Having pushed one wolf, he threw them into one pile. When the wolves were lying in one place, he used his new technique of exploding corpses. Explosions covered the background of a happy and proud He-yun, celebrating his victory. After the explosion of 200 wolf corpses, the system notified him of receiving 1 fragment of luck. But before he could rejoice in his victory, he turned around and saw the huge leader of the wolf pack, who still needed to be defeated. He growled loudly, opening his huge mouth. He-yun was glad that he wasn't level 20 because he would have died easily. The leader of the pack slowly approached, but He-yun was confident that he was already level 60 and could not lose. The 30-level difference gave him a greater advantage. With one click on the pack leader's face, he dealt him maximum damage, without even using skills. With one snap of a finger, the leader flew far away. It began to spread through the trees, breaking them in half. The system congratulated He-yun on his successful victory over the pack leader. But He-yun expected more, at least some kind of reward, and decided to ask the system again. He picked up the system and began to pry it for notifications about receiving fragments of luck, becoming disillusioned with it. But the poor system did not receive any notification about this. Having forgotten about the rewards from the system, he decided to rely on the leader of the pack, in case there would be some rewards. He-yun approached the pack leader who had shamefully lost to him. He was lying on the ground. From his skull, he took out a spiritual bead of an unusual red color. The moment he picked it up, the system announced that he had been replenished with 300,000 points and had received 2 fragments of luck. The system decided to ask again whether the young master wanted to synthesize the fragments. He-yun was fed up with these obvious questions, so he asked the system not to ask him anymore, but to just automatically synthesize them. the system once again began synthesizing fragments of luck into a new talent. A notification announced the new talent, allowing 2 informational questions to be asked per day, granting it the right to learn any information. Hee-yun was satisfied with this talent. After that, there wasn't much to do in the forest, so he decided to head home. The next morning, Hee-yun began to water the red sphere with a watering can, doubting that anything would actually grow from it. During this moment, he felt a strange smell of medicinal herbs and decided to go towards it. Following the smell, he noticed that Master Ho was busy preparing medicine. He approached and decided to ask if the master was ill, but the master said the medicine wasn't for him and passed the baton to him. Hee-yun asked who the medicine was for, and the master replied that Xiao Wushan was ill and asked him to bring it to her as soon as it was ready. Hee-yun asked what exactly was wrong. Master Hao's answer about the cold was ambiguous, and Hee-yun was worried, as even a cold could be dangerous for an ordinary person. Master agreed. In fact, Wu Xian, in Xiao Wushan's body, hadn't been able to recover because Hee-yun lacked stamina. But the master was also confused by Hee-yun's condition, because when Wu Xian plays with him, he usually looks tired. Compared to his previous state, he now looks like he's actually gotten better. The master thought the patriarch had absorbed his yin and replenished his yang. Having finished preparing the medicine, he took it to Xiao Wushan. The master asked him to hurry, silently thinking that he should have practiced more in his youth. Walking up to the door of Xiao Wushan's room, he knocked, shouting that it was Hee-yun and that he had brought her medicine. She didn't answer, so he decided to go in himself and open the door. Xiao Wushan lay on the bed and looked in bad shape. The guy placed the medicine on the nightstand and came closer, touching her forehead. He felt that she had more than just a cold, but a fever. Xiao Wushan opened her eyes slightly and said in a low voice to give her the medicine. Hee-yun was worried that it was cold medicine and might not help, but she ordered it to be served quickly. He sat down next to her and began to give her the medicine directly from his hands. Due to weakness, it was difficult for her to drink the medicine, so a small amount fell on her chest. Hee-yun was immediately embarrassed by this scene, but he didn't want to take advantage of this moment to look. He put her back on the bed and decided to go into the forest to collect more herbs to make medicine for the high fever. Wu Xian was only confused by the fact that Hee-yun's level had increased again, since his aura was at least level 50, and she couldn't understand how this was possible. Hee-yun went into the forest and began to look for the necessary herbs for medicine. While he was digging in the grass, he saw someone's silhouette in the shadows behind him. He turned around and saw that it was Sister Ding. Hee-yun immediately turned to her and asked why she had left so suddenly yesterday, without him having time to thank her. Ding-ning was confused, not understanding what he wanted to thank her for. Hee-yun told Sister Ding that if any interesting place appeared, he wouldn't mind going there with her. She didn't believe his words and didn't understand what was wrong with his head, since even after what happened, he didn't mind going for a walk with her. Ding-ning leaned closer to him and asked if he still had the Eternal Light bracelet. Hee-yun didn't understand the question. He asked what bracelet exactly she was asking him about, since he had no idea. His question genuinely angered her. She thought he was trying to deceive her. He responded in kind, again saying he had no idea what bracelet she was talking about. Using his new know-it-all technique, he decided to ask the system for information about Ding-ning. The system gave out a complete table of information about Ding-ning, a disciple of the Pleasure Pavilion, who is actually a spy, and that her goal is indeed to find the Bracelet of Eternal Radiance. Hee-yun didn't know what an Eternal Radiance bracelet was, but it sounded like a beautiful piece of jewelry. He hadn't expected Ding-ning to come from a righteous sect, and he couldn't understand why she was after him, considering he was just a cook. After reviewing her profile and learning that she was only level 29, Hee-yun realized Ding-ning posed no threat to him. However, if things came to a violent confrontation, he absolutely must not kill her, as it would negatively impact his record, which could affect his future entry into the righteous sect. Hee-yun continues to play his naive role, although he sincerely does not understand what bracelet is being talked about. Ding-ning is serious, and she's cleared the entire area in case anyone comes to Hee-yun's defense. She decides to resort to drastic measures. Grabbing the guy by the throat, she shouts an order for him to stop pretending and give her the bracelet if he wants to live. Hee-yun tries to say something through the strangulation. He decided to ask her if she would let him go if he gave her the bracelet. Ding-ning promised to let him go if he cooperated. After her answer, he smirked and joked about her status as Taishu Xiao's disciple, and whether she would let a demon cult member live. The girl was angered by his mockery and was curious about how he knew her identity. But Hee-yun was not going to tell the truth because she would soon die anyway. Hee-yun grabs her with a sharp movement and breaks her arm, causing the girl to cry out in pain. She jumps away from him a fair distance. Ding-ning doesn't understand why he is so strong, but Hee-yun continues to joke and wants to thank her for it. Ding-ning doesn't understand what he is talking about. As Hee-yun prepares to strike, he explains that if she hadn't taken him for a walk, he wouldn't have been able to become so rich. The girl asked him if he was afraid someone might see. But at that moment, Hee-yoon struck. Ding-ning tried to take the blow with her other hand, but the hero was too strong. His blow lands through her attempts to defend herself, cutting clean through her chest. The force of his blow sent Ding-ning flying back a couple of meters, powerless. After defeating Sister Dean, he finally answered her question, because she wasn't afraid that someone would see her. So why should he be afraid? Hee-yoon decided to silently approach Ding-ning's body. As he got closer, he used his new corpse explosion technique, causing Ding-ning's body to explode. Hee-yoon is satisfied with the result of clearing the corpse, because it will be safer. It turned out that at this time Wu Xian and Fa Yin were watching this from the bushes. Fa Yin was surprised that Hee-yoon knew about Ding-ning's identity, but Wu Xian was more interested in his technique of exploding corpses. Further observing him, Wu Xian realizes that he is a little cruel, but just like the people from the demonic cult, she is very pleased with his speed, intelligence, and ability to cover his tracks. Wu Xian turned around and was about to leave, but then sent Fa Yin on a mission so that Siyu could teach him a couple of techniques and study what scrolls he was reading. But also, after Ding-ning went missing, Tai Shu Xiao's spies would come, so Fa Yin needed to get rid of all of them. Fa Yin just smiled and accepted the task. Having finished speaking, she began to run after Wu Xian, who was already leaving, but she couldn't keep up with her. Hee-yoon turned around, having sensed someone's presence in the bushes a few moments ago. He was overcome with fear that someone might see him kill him. He sighed, and was disappointed that Ding-ning hadn't managed to take him to a more interesting place. After some time, Hee-yoon finally returned, having collected the necessary herbs to make fever medicine for Xiao Wushan. But as he walked further into the kitchen, he noticed Xiao Wushan, who was already in good health, working with vegetables. She explained this by saying that Master Hao's medicine worked immediately, so she was already feeling better. Hee-yoon immediately turned to the master to praise his skill in preparing medicine, having decided to dry the herbs that had been collected today. He left. Wu Xian in Xiao Wushan's body praised Hee-yoon and asked the master to teach him properly. The master agreed to teach him as his own son. Hee-yoon went outside on a dark evening and began to dry the herbs he had collected, but he heard someone's footsteps behind him. Turning around, Tian Shui, a disciple of the Pleasure Pavilion, suddenly appeared there, accompanied by two unfamiliar girls. He ordered everyone to go outside. Everyone ran out into the street at the sound of the scream, and Master Ho asked what was going on. Recognizing the gentleman and lady from the Pleasure Pavilion, he immediately changed his tone and carefully asked what brought them there and whether they liked the food at the banquet. But without answering the master's question, the master abruptly drew his sword and pointed it at Hee-yoon, accusing him of murdering Ding-ning. According to the cult's rules, killing a disciple would cost him his life. Hee-yoon felt confident and asked how he could kill the disciple of the Pleasure Pavilion, since he was an ordinary cook. The gentleman was throwing around accusations because Ding-ning had gone to see him and never returned. Hee-yoon stood his ground and refused to confess, but he understands their suspicions. People from the demonic cult tend to kill over trifles. Since they accuse him of murder, Hee-yoon demands proof of his crime. Master Hao immediately agreed to his demand and asked the master for proof, but he only looked surprised. Suddenly, a deep voice was heard from behind the master. The voice said that her student had indeed disappeared. It turned out to be Yuxin Kui, the very same mistress of the Pleasure Pavilion. She claims that Hee-yoon was the last person to see Ding-ning, meaning he needs to be watched. Coming closer, the lady suggests to the master to lock Hee-yoon in the mirror room for a couple of days, and after the investigation clear his name, but the master knows that they just want to lock him up. In response to this accusation, the lady offers to provide him with a larger room. Xiao Wushan, standing behind him, clenched her fist with enormous force, her grimace expressing a vast array of emotions. The master noticed this and decided to clarify what would happen if he refused. The lady did not stand on ceremony and informed him that if he refused, he would be considered guilty, and Master Hao would be considered an accomplice, and both of them would be executed. Wu Xian turned to Master with her mind. The mistress was overprotective of her students, so it would be better to let her lock Hee-yoon away. They wouldn't find anything anyway. She also suggested Master come with him. It would be a good opportunity to teach him something. After Wu Xian's order, Master agreed to the mistress's terms and gave permission to take Hee-yoon, but he also wanted to accompany him. The mistress didn't understand why they had to go so far. The master explained this by their aggression, and he is worried that Hee-yoon might be harassed. Just when Hee-yoon wanted to resist the master's proposal, he interrupts him and orders him to take a lot of clean clothes, and they both go into custody. He didn't have much choice and he just agreed. Looking at Mr. Tian Shui, Hee-yoon assumed he was in cahoots with Ding-ning, since his accusation fell on him. But the hero was still curious about the eternal light of the soul. Hee-yoon went into the room and began to pack his clean clothes to go into detention. Turning around, he remembered the seed of the patriarch's favorite dish, which he had been entrusted to grow and protect. He wasn't sure what it was, so after touching the pot, He decided to use his know-it-all technique and find out more about it. The system gave out information that it was the eternal light of the soul, and that whoever possessed it became the strongest because the souls of Zhenren Changming and the Demon Lord were sealed within it. After learning more about the eternal light of the soul, he was only interested in who Zhenren Changshan was. While he was studying the Golden Sphere, he was called out from outside because he was taking a long time to get ready. He shouted that he would come out soon. As he prepared to leave, he pondered the importance of this assignment and how the cult leader could have given the eternal light to him. Ultimately, He Yun accepted the conclusion as a positive one, as the eternal light would be safe for these 5 days. Having finally finished packing, He Yun gathered his strength and was ready to set off. After some time with things in hand, they reached the mirror site. Looking around, He Yun asked why there were so many mirrors here, to which Master Hao replied that if it were, it would not be called a mirror platform. He Yun was disappointed. This answer didn't explain anything at all. He asked what these mirrors were used for. The master cleverly replied that they were standing there to observe them. He Yun realized that even going to the toilet would be a problem, but they reassured him, saying it wasn't as twisted as he thought. He Yun, of course, didn't believe it. Finally, they reached their room. The door was thrown open for them. Once inside, they were very surprised by the size of the chamber, which looked like a presidential mansion. Master Hao asked what presidential meant, to which He Yun replied that it was a high-ranking official. The master turned to Lady K and warned that if his student turned out to be innocent, he would not let it go. She awkwardly agreed with his words. After closing the doors to the dungeon, Tian Shui expressed his dissatisfaction with the simple cook's treatment of Lady K with such disrespect, to which the lady immediately shuts his mouth. Lady Kuei says that he is not just some cook, and Tian Shui wants to know who he really is, but she will not say anything more and sends him to find his sister Ding Ning. The lady decided to ask Tian Shui why his sister needed to see an ordinary apprentice cook like He Yun, but Tian Shui himself didn't know the answer. She told him she suspected he was a planted agent and wanted to test him. The lady didn't believe her assumptions because it was nonsense, especially since searching for spies wasn't the job of the pleasure gazebo. Tian Shui began to count Ding Ning, as she was only thinking about the cult. Moreover, the cult leader had emerged from seclusion, and now many wanted to take the eternal light of the soul. The lady was interested in why the head of the cult did not speak publicly after his release, and found this strange. Master Hao and He Yun were arranging their things in their new home. He Yun was surprised by the lack of mirrors in the room, but his thoughts were elsewhere. If that devil's poison flared up while he was imprisoned, wouldn't she grab anyone she could to suppress it? But he didn't understand why he was worried, because she didn't care whether he died or not. Master Hao looked tense. Suddenly, the master attacked He Yun from behind. Fortunately, He Yun managed to dodge the surprise attack. In bewilderment, he asked the master why he did this, because if it weren't for the reaction, he would have died immediately. Master learned that He Yun was level 60. He had never seen such a serious expression on his face. Just a few days ago, he was an ordinary person. What could happen interested the master, and he was ready to attack again. He Yun became nervous. He acknowledged his skill level but pretended not to know where it came from. He didn't want to show weakness in front of him. His blow was too ferocious. The master did not believe his words. He became even more nervous and decided to lie, saying he'd stumbled upon a strange place after a walk with Ding Ning, lost consciousness, and woken up with a level. It was too strange, so he chose to hide it, especially since he didn't know any techniques. Unexpectedly for He Yun, the master began to laugh. His reaction was incomprehensible. Having sat down, the master advised him to say that he was taught by old man Siu and asked to hide his strength and not to make up such nonsense. He Yun was surprised by the master's reaction to his lie, but he took it in stride. To have been able to level up so much meant he was incredibly lucky. The cult leader and Fa Yin informed him that He Yun had killed Ding Ning. He Yun was stunned by this statement, realizing the master knew the whole truth. The master had acted calmly, saying there was no need to worry, since they were from a demonic cult that could kill without blinking an eye. He Yun was afraid the cult leader knew everything too, but the master revealed that they literally watched his murder. He Yun realized he'd been foolish, and that the feeling of being watched wasn't just a fluke, but at least the master wasn't going to punish him. A moment later, the master began to remove his ring. Taking off the ring, He Yun was surprised by the master's powerful aura. He apologized for such power, as he hadn't taken off the ring for over 100 years. He tossed it to He Yun so that he could use the artifact to conceal his level. Having received such an important thing in his hands, He Yun almost burst into tears. He Yun shed tears at the master's kindness. The master said that the cult leader treats He Yun well, so he should not forget to thank her when he reaches the heights. But He Yun became curious about why the cult leader would treat him well. The master suddenly blushed and became embarrassed, justifying himself by saying that he simply did not understand anything, and that it was very difficult to hide from the leader's gaze. He decided to get down to business. The cult leader considered Hee-yun talented and therefore ordered him to be trained in survival skills. The master decided to live up to his status and teach him the unique, heartless palm technique. Hee-yun instantly knelt down and was ready to learn. The master began teaching and explaining the basic rules of the technique. He briefly explains that he will later be able to combine it with the merciless ring, which requires concentrating the strength of the entire body on the tip of one finger. And if you further develop this skill, it can turn into an eternal area of heartlessness. But the master suddenly fell silent. Hee-yun decided to ask what the problem was. He explained that this technique was sufficient for the basics, so there was no need to strive for the ultimate. Hee-yun didn't understand why. The master explained that if one became carried away with this technique, one's heart could become completely cold. But if the master is fine, does that mean he has not reached the final stage? But he immediately interrupted him, refuting his words. The master is gifted by nature, so the final stage does not hinder him. Hee-yun immediately praised the master, knowing he wasn't so simple. But in his head, he knew that since he'd cut himself off, he was hiding something. The master stood up and headed towards the door, getting ready to go and demonstrate the technique. But Hee-yun was worried, because there were mirrors everywhere outside. And wasn't the master afraid that someone might steal the equipment? The master wasn't worried. The mirror platform was a good place for training. Master Hao was second in skill to the cult leader and her assistant, so he was the one to hold on to. They came out of their room, and the master is going to demonstrate the technique once, so it is better to watch carefully. Hee-yun was willing to watch closely and learn. The master began to demonstrate the technique. After finishing the demonstration, Hee-yun immediately wanted to try it himself. Hee-yun began to try to use the technique following the master's example. The master was immediately surprised by his repetition and skill. Hee-yun finished demonstrating the technique and asked the master how he had done. The master could only marvel at how he had memorized and repeated it so quickly. He started to be modest, putting everything down to his high level, which could be a reason for quickly learning techniques. The master praised Hee-yun and realized that the cult leader was not mistaken in his skill and that he was ready to teach him everything he knew. The matter passes to Lady K, who is holding a mirror in her hands. Having watched Hee-yun's training, she was impressed by his skill, so if the murder turned out to be a lie, she would like to take him back. After 3 days of training, he examined the handprint on the wall. It couldn't compare to the master's strength, but it was sufficient for self-defense. Hee-yun began to dream of leaving the demonic sect with his heartless hand and joining the righteous sect, but his dreams were cut short by a hand that struck him on the head from behind. It turned out to be the master, who asked what Hee-yun was muttering about. He decided to boast that he too could now leave an imprint on the wall. The master was impressed. It took him 10 years of training to leave a mark. Hee-yun resets all his achievements to level 60, and if the level was 0, he wouldn't even be 50 years old. The master was amused by Hee-yun's self-esteem and took out a notebook from his inside pocket. It was handed over by the leader's assistant Fa Yin, and Hee-yun should study it. Hee-yun didn't understand why this technique didn't have a name, but he didn't tell Master Fa Yin anything either. It looked like he was cultivating his inner breath, and the master was surprised at Hee-yun's luck, since nothing but blessings were showered upon him. Hee-yun joked that it was all because of his beauty, and the master called him shameless. After running his eyes over the notebook, he put it in his inside pocket and was about to go off to practice. As Hee-yun left, the master was surprised by his dependence on cultivation. After some time, he was lying on the bed studying cultivation and decided to use his know-it-all technique to learn more about it. The system returned information about the eternal true scripture, a method of key cultivation. Hee-yun considered the similarity of the names to the eternal light of the soul. He realized that there might be a connection between them. He decided to try the breathing technique written on the first pages. Having started using the technique, he immediately felt relief and cleansing throughout his body. He felt his hearing and vision instantly become sharper. He had a distinct feeling that this scripture was written specifically for him. Hee-yun wanted to learn more about this Genren Changming from the master, and if possible, he should learn from him. After finishing his practice, he looked at the master, who looked too calm for a man in captivity. Hee-yun turned to the master and asked if he knew about Genren Changming. The master was amazed by Hee-yun's knowledge and asked how he knew about such a powerful being from ancient times. Hee-yun explained that he had discovered something while being sent to the library as punishment. It turned out that Genren Changming was a powerful being, almost reaching the half-shen level, but he died fighting the demon lord. Hee-yun was surprised that he had fought the great leader of their cult and lost, but the master refuted his words because that demon lord was the leader of the demon race. Hee-yun had never heard of a demon clan and didn't even know he was in a fantasy world. Although he had seen wolves, they were merely spirit beasts. The demon race disappeared after that war, But it was hard to say whether it was true or not, since he himself only heard it from his master. But this is just a legend, so it cannot be confirmed. Suddenly, the system issued a notification about an unusual event for knowing part of the truth of the world, and received one fragment of luck as a reward, which made it clear that this myth is true. Hee-yoon began to have more and more questions, and he found it all strange. Hee-yoon decided to leave and practice again. The master found this strange. Moving to another room, Hee-yoon again began to study the book that, according to legend, was written by Zhenren Changming. But he did not understand how it ended up in the demonic sect. While studying the book, he suddenly noticed an inscription dedicating this book to two of Zhenren Changming's disciples. Hee-yoon was immediately interested in this inscription and wanted to understand who these two students were. Meanwhile, the eavesdropping Madame Quay couldn't hear a word because Hee-yoon was whispering, but at that moment her observation was interrupted by a voice warning her of the danger of her actions. Suddenly, it was the cult leader. Lady Quay immediately paused and asked what the patriarch could be doing in such a place.